YouTube. How you doing? Do a quick ramble about. I just loaded into this game, so it's gonna take a while for it to load up. A quick ramble about what is needed these days in the game for a gaming system, a gaming PC, per se. An i5 will get you by, basically. Depending on what kind of gaming you're doing. I do 1080p gaming. I don't do 1440p or nothing like that because I play on a 24-inch monitor. You know, nice and stupid. I play on a 24-inch monitor. This game is still loading, so that's one of the main reasons it probably looks like crap right now. There we go. I think it's finishing loading up. This is Arma. Do you need a high dollar video card? Do you need a high dollar graphics card? No. 970 to get you by. 980. Let's see what else. 1070. Hell, even an AMD graphics card to get you by these days. Do you need a high-end CPU? No, but what you do need, though, when you do pick out your CPU, whatever that may be, you need a CPU you can overclock. If you get an i5, make sure you get a K-SKU. Don't get a base model or one of those other multiple random versions of an i5. Get something that's K-SKU, you can overclock it. Why? Because that overclocking potential adds more power to the system. You can run more things through it. I have an i5. I have a i7. Actually, this game here is an i7, and right now it is overclocked. See, if you look in the top left corner, you see it bump up to a 4.68. It's actually supposed to be a 4.7, but it's bouncing around a lot. It's only using what it needs. And it all depends on what you're trying to play. If you're trying to play a AAA title, yes, you definitely need something that can overclock a 970 GPU or better. Right now, I'm running on two 780s, which is equivalent to a 970, a single 970. You know, my 980s are overclocked. You know, they're overclocked to 1.2 gigahertz, something like that. And you're stuck behind the door, you idiot. Yeah. Take off. Do you need a 1080, 1070? No, a lot of people can't even use the full potential of a 1080 or a 1070. That's more along the lines of something further down the field. A 480. I have a friend of mine who has a 480. You know, the new AMD graphics card. I don't want neither one. Play neither one of those right now. Who has a 480, and his 480 does the job. I mean, most people are playing at 1080p or less. You know, you got to think about that. And for 1080, it's not really strenuous. Well, it's strenuous, but it depends on what your settings are like. If you're maxing out settings high or better, yeah, you're gonna need a CPU that's gonna be able to grunt, hold the weight of everything else that it's got on its shoulders. But if you just have a CPU, if you're playing at medium 720p, now you really just need an i5 or lower. When I say an i5 or lower, I mean like Z97. Z97? Yeah, Z97 or Z87, something along those lines. Yeah, you'll be perfectly fine with that. I have a Z87 i5, and that thing rocks. You know, if I want to do something, but that's also paired on a 680 Ti at that. That's the funny thing about it. You know, that's an odd match there. A Z87 and a 680 Ti. But that's the system I don't play on. You know, my wife and my son, and when I have guests over and I want to do some network gaming, that's what I play on. You know, we all play on those. Do they get the job done? Hell yeah. What I said, you know, it's a crappy system. Nah. So why do I have two systems? Well, the i5 was my original build. You know, and the only reason I upgraded because of a dick measuring contest between me and a friend of mine. You know, he was doing comparisons between his system and my system, and he had a 2500K Intel, and he's seeing, hey, you know, your system is better than mine, and he decided to upgrade his system, and here we are. I have an i7 now. Do you need a, what is it, 5600K? Something along those lines, one of those extreme processors? Nope, not at all. It's totally overkill. Save your money, save your pesos. You know, you can use that money towards something else. You know, viper harness. Oh, save your money for something else, something that you could use later on down the line that will be beneficial. You know, as far as just going ahead and just buying these things now, nah, you're good. Trust me, you're good. i5, not overclock, probably last you a good year and a half, 2 years. And I know it doesn't sound like a very long time, but we're talking non-overclock. You know, just something you're plugging in and playing. Once you overclock it, you'll get another year and a half out of it. You know, it's the main reason I'm not thinking about overclocking my system right now. I mean, not upgrading my system to a Z170. Now, the only thing I can say that's a bonus to these new motherboards and new CPUs is one, instructions per clock. But if you're overclocking something, i7, you can make that up. You know, you can make up that missing ground, that horsepower you don't have. You know, but if we're talking something like a non-overclock setup, because you're trying to save dollars here and there, nah, you're killing yourself in the long term. You know, I know a lot of guys, they want to do builds, and why get the K SKU? Because the K SKU is actually going to last you a tad bit longer. You know, not only because it's a K SKU and you can overclock it, you know, it's going to grant you more performance. You know, that extra $50 you're going to pay for that K SKU, well worth it. Trust me. What kind of overclocking would I suggest? I always suggest water cooled. Always water cooled. You know, you don't realize how much of a bump water cooling is until you've done it. Water cooling is a big deal. Very, very big deal. And some guys will be like, oh, that's a waste of money. You don't need to water cool or anything. Or water cooling is dangerous. You know, you can mess up your whole system with water cooling. Nah, you really won't mess up your system on water cooling. Trust me on that one. This computer I'm playing on right now is water cooled. It's been water cooled for over 2 years now. System before that probably about another 2 years. And both of these, my i7 and my i5, both have sat in the truck. You know, because I drive a truck. I drive cross country, and you know, if you think the roads around in your city or in your area effed up, imagine going cross country. And I've had water cooled systems travel with me, and not no special packaging or no protective foam or anything like that. These systems have sat in the passenger seat or on the floor in the back of the truck, bouncing around water cooled, and they were working perfectly fine. Never had a leak, never had an issue. You know, if something did go wrong with the system, it's probably because I screwed something up. I was fucking with something I shouldn't have been fucking with. For the most part, that's the only time things actually go wrong with the water cooled system. I don't blame nobody but myself. You know, i7. i7s are good, and I know some guys will be like, well, especially what is his name, Jay's 2 cents. I like Jay's 2 cents. He's a good host. I don't take nothing from Jay's 2 cents, but he will push you to go get an i7. And is he wrong for telling you, it's not worth it if you don't have an i7? No, he's not really wrong, but I mean, you don't need an i7. Your world will not end if you don't have an i7. You know.
The time is 11:15 a.m.
And that's my alarm saying I've been on here for too long. So we're gonna try and hurry up and wrap this up. You don't need an i7. You can get by with just an i5. You can get by with an AMD setup. Depending on how old the AMD setup is and what game you're gonna play, you'll get by. 5 frames, you won't notice. 20 frames, you will notice. The goal of gaming of any rate is to be above 30 frames a second, to be playable. 60 frames for most people is the sweet spot. Me personally, I prefer 70 frames a second. And you're probably looking at this game I'm playing right now, Arma, and you're like, well, you're in the 40s. Arma is extremely demanding on the CPU. That's why I said, if you're going to get a CPU, no matter i7 or i5, you need to be able to overclock it. Because, see, in Arma, my CPU is working hard, but my GPU isn't doing nothing. My GPU is just laying there. It's waiting for the CPU to tell it to do something. So, and that's where your money needs to go. Yeah, you can go ahead and get last generation GTX 970. You don't need the new deal. You don't need the big dog. And better yet, if you're buying stuff on a budget, look for open box. Look for certified, what is it called? It's open box and it's something else. It's where it's been sent back to a manufacturer, and the manufacturer sent it back to the store for resale. Those are usually I want to say 20% cheaper than retail price, and it's still just as good. Both of my 780s are open box. They're both Poseidon 780s with the built-in water block, and they're open box items, and they both do the job. I have no problems with them. And I've been rocking these for almost 2 years now. So, it's what you want at the end of the day. What makes you happy? If you want to play a FPS game, Battlefield, COD, something like that, high speed, Doom, you need a game that's going to push out. You need a graphics card that's going to push 970. In other words, what they call medium to high end graphics cards. Your 70 series, your 80 series plus. And usually the 70 series and the 80 series plus, you can get 2-3 generations out of. The 60 series and below, you're probably going to get a generation and a half before those show their age. And to be honest, anything that can't play a game at high settings from the beginning, once you buy it, if it's not playing games at high settings, don't expect it to last more than 2 generations. The 780 it's going on its 3rd generation. I can still plug in any game and play it at high settings and still get 70 plus frames per second. If I want something higher than that, I might have to turn down a couple of options. But how many games do I need to run beyond 80 frames a second? Games like that is like your CODs, your Battlefield, your high-speed shooters, your racing games. Usually racing games don't need let's redo that. Race games are a high refresh. You will need a medium to high performing graphics card. But also with these items, you also need a monitor to keep up. My suggestion for monitors, go with a Asus or a BenQ. They have cheap monitors. Well, I consider cheap in comparison to everybody else. $250 for a monitor, pretty cheap. Don't go 27-inch. If you're going to do 1080p gaming, don't do 27-inch. Stay around the 24, 25-inch monitors. Don't go 4K 24-inch. You know, it's a balance. I'd rather go with a smaller monitor, 24-inch, and higher refresh than go with a larger monitor that has a slower refresh and worse pixel per inch, not pixel, worse resolution or equal resolution. I won't get a 1080 monitor that's a 27-inch because now you're seeing the pixels. 24-inch, you don't see the pixels anyway, so you don't need as much MSAA, you know, because the jaggeds aren't. You don't see the jaggeds. Like if you look at this image right now, there's 2x MSAA on, but you still really don't see the jaggeds on here because it's a 1080p game. Now, if I was looking at a 27-inch monitor, yeah, because I can see the pixels. But since the monitor is so small, you don't see the pixels. So, if you was to ask me, hey, Rick, I need to build a system. GTX 9, and you're on the budget, GTX 970 or 480. The AMD 480 graphics cards. The only thing I don't like about AMD is they're not as big as Nvidia because Nvidia's been beating the brakes off of. Let's call a spade a spade. But that 480 performs well. It's hot as shit. You can't overclock it. That's another reason I would tell somebody Nvidia first, because you could overclock the shit out of an Nvidia chip. As simple as that. That's the only reason. You want longevity. You want your parts to last a long time. You're gonna have to overclock it. If you want to make it more than 2, 3, 4 generations, yeah, you're gonna have to overclock it. Same thing with CPUs. If you wanna build a system that you're gonna need to last more than 2, 3 years, get something you can overclock. AMD overclockers. AMD chips are always great overclockers. But on the same token, with AMD products, you're gonna have to keep them cool, preferably water cool. As far as Intel, i5 are better, but then again, like you would really go lower than the i5, but make sure it's K-SKU. That's the only reason I would tell you to go with an i5. Even if you get an i7, I tell you go K-SKU. Do you need an extreme board? No, because all you're doing is throwing away money. Do you need an expensive motherboard? No, you're throwing away money. All my boards for my Intel setups are all expensive, and all the features on every last one of them are totally useless. You got the special networking, you got the special this, that, and the other. Totally useless. You don't need it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That was my ramble about PCs and upgrades. Hopefully it made sense. If you have any questions, leave a comment. Hopefully I do get to it. I'm usually behind on comments, but I'm trying to catch back up. But you don't need top dollar anything, you know. You can build a system under $1,000. Well, I say build one of those $500 systems. No, you're throwing your money away. Save your money, and do something else. Better yet, if you want to really do it on a budget, eBay. I bought parts on eBay, and I have yet to see something go wrong on eBay. But I won't tell you it won't happen. But so far, every part I bought for a PC on eBay worked. You know, check somebody's reputation. They don't have a reputation at all, be wary. If they have a good reputation, yeah, definitely order from that person. And if you guys check them to see if they overclocked it, you know, because overclocking does wear down parts. But this CPU here, 2 years old. My i5 at the house, 3 years old. My AMD 955 Black, that chip came out in 2012, 13, something like that, 15, 13. I think it's came out in 13. That thing's been overclocked since day one, and it's been overclocked on air, and it's still ticking. So overclocking really isn't that bad, you know. And it's 2016. That thing is still going, you know. That AMD Black may be older than that. I'm just pulling numbers out my ass on the age of the AMD Black. But overclocking isn't bad. My 660 Ti overclocked is still going. That thing is running on the memory. It's running, I want to say 6800 megahertz on the memory. On the CPU, on the GPU, it's running like 11 something. 1158, and the base clock was like a 900. My 680 GTX, that's crap. I'm sorry, that 680 was crap. It's a gigabyte, and I can't overclock the memory for shit for some strange reason on there. Back to the point. Gonna do a build. Want to do it on a budget. i5 will get you by. Make sure you overclock it. GPUs, if you're really on a budget, 480. AMD, from my understanding, supports their hardware a lot better than NVIDIA. But who knows? Till next time, be safe, have fun, keep gaming. Bye.